So arguably I've got one of the best looking irons in golf, and I'm going to review it in this video. So two new irons from Wilson. We've got the Staff Model CB, so this like small cavity, and then we've got the absolutely stunning Staff Model Blade, which if we just take a second to admire that, that is a thing of beauty. Now, I'm slightly biased because I currently play the previous model in the Blade. Absolutely love them. I've had them in the bag for 4 years. And to be honest, it's been pretty much 4 years since that was launched. Wilson are not a brand that will switch every 12 months in terms of their players' irons. So I'm going to delve straight into the Staff Model, the bladed iron. So first of all, appearance as it looks. It doesn't look massively different to what there was the previous model. And to be honest, I don't expect to be huge changes between the two. What can you do with the blade? The loft isn't obviously going to change. There's no sort of tungsten flying in here. It's literally a pure iron. We've got the through bore, as we can see there. A couple little cosmetic differences, I would say. There is some little tech differences, but again, it'll be subtle. We're going to run through that as we go through that. Big standout here now is the badge, okay? And I'm not a fan of this, if I'm being brutally honest. I understand now they've gone into more of a modern style of branding. They've got the Staff, Wilson Staff badge, but without the WS in there. It's just plain, just a badge. So probably the brand is a point, and to be honest, it's got a load of history, hasn't it, Wilson, as a brand, probably to the point where you don't need the WS in there. I sort of get it, it's modernised, it's sleek, it's clean. I just feel it's missing something. It just feels a bit lost if I'm being brutally honest. But Staff Model, forged, Wilson, bit of crimping around that hosel. What we used to see in those retro irons back in the day where they were hugely popular. So let's get this one hit. 7-iron. And of course, this looks absolutely beautiful down by the golf ball as well. I've got my iron here as well, so we can just obviously do a little comparison of how this sort of looks against it. Obviously, the badge has just changed location, a little bit of etching out in the back of the golf club, but pretty much a very, very sort of similar shape. Sole width looks to be absolutely identical. Mine's obviously got a few more nicks and a bit more battering over the 4 years I've had them. And we just lose those little diamond etchings that sort of surround the grooves on the club face. They've gone now, so it's a little bit of a cleaner sort of look in terms of that club face. But ultimately is a fantastic looking iron down by that golf ball. So 7-iron, as I mentioned, 34 degrees of loft, so nice traditional on a lofting. And that feels beautiful. That feels so good. It's an iron that I'm familiar with, and the feel of that is no different to what I've got with mine. I wouldn't expect to be, and I don't want it to be any different, to be honest. You know, it's that pure feel, it's that forged. The ball doesn't really sort of fly off the club face. We get that sort of hanging sort of ball flight there, loads of sort of high descent angle, stopping power. Now you'll notice on screen there, I've actually hit a batch of shots with my previous model, 7-iron, in my set of the Staff Model. So interested to see a little comparison up against the new one, what the differences are, if there is any at all. Oh, beautiful, gorgeous. The sound, the feel, the ball flight, yeah, excellent shot, and hitting numbers I would expect to sort of see. So as I mentioned, there's not a great deal any brand can really do with a blade. A little bit of subtle changing of weight, and that's what Wilson have done in this iron. So as you maybe notice up against mine, the sort of little etched out bit in the back of the golf club is just slightly increased in size. So there's a subtle saving of weight there, and I'm going to use the word subtle, and that's obviously going to be replaced then into the toe section. So what Wilson is saying, this is like a more of a toe precision. So basically they're not wanting this toe to close down too quickly. So generally the better player who would be into this iron doesn't want to see that ball go left. So they're helping to keep the face a little bit more open through that impact. And we still see what Wilson call that fluid feel hosel. So that through bore essentially there, again, that is saving weight inside, being repositioned. We did see that on the previous model. Fantastic. Great strike, feels superb off that club face. So the head is a one piece, and it's an 8620 carbon steel, which is obviously forged, which gives that super soft feel. We've then got this precision milling on the face, which is a little bit new in this model. So again, obviously trying to really sort of help in terms of that consistency of spin and that sort of workability. Wilson sort of saying that the ball will stay on that face that fraction longer to give ultimate workability in terms of the ball flight. Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. And the big question that I've got it rattling around in my head, do I switch from mine into the new ones? Is there a big enough change for me to do so? And I quite like the fact, bear in mind with myself, my bad shot would be a little bit of that left shot. I quite like this extra bit of weight in the toe to try and minimise that club face. Obviously, technique-wise, if I've got something a little bit overpowering, I can obviously override that a little bit, but if I can just reduce that fraction, that's quite appealing to me. And to be honest, if everything else stayed exactly the same in terms of the look and the feels of this, which I feel like it does, to be honest, it feels as good as mine, then, you know, I'd be quite happy to make a switch. Yeah, beautiful. That's only one word I can describe it, beautiful. That is a class set of golf clubs. And I feel what's really interesting is where this CB model, the small cavity, is really going to come into it, is you can split these and you can combo them because the lofts are exactly the same. Let's jump into the CB and have a little look at that one. So let's just compare the two in terms of looks, as if you might combo this and move from that staff model into the CB. So obviously what we'd expect to see is a slightly larger head. Now we do in the fact of the top edge, it's a little bit sort of thicker on the top edge. The blade length is identical. The shaping of the head is identical. It's just obviously a little bit chunkier on that top line. Obviously not too chunky, but chunkier in comparison to that blade. So turn the club around, look at it. Now clearly we're going to see this small cavity in there. So ultimately this is trying to produce the same sort of performance as we see it in the blade, just with that element of more forgiveness, as you're going to expect. So this is where the combo might be a great option for you. So if you sort of love to get into a blade but very nervous on those longer irons that are just going to be too hard to hit, this is a really good option to replace in those longer irons and then progress into the blade in the shorter irons. The lofts, refreshingly, are exactly the same, 34 degree. The wedge is at 46 degree. There's not many times we sort of see a wedge nowadays at 46 degrees. So these are definitely in that playability area, not just striving for distance. So CB, again, looks fantastic behind that golf ball. Oh yeah, and that feels as good as the blade. That feels fantastic. Yeah, again, just a little bit of a pulley one from me, but hitting a very, very similar, as we're going to expect. The lofts are the same, 34 degrees. Shouldn't expect this to go any further. We've just got that little bit more, maybe help on those slight misses. Okay, touch low in the face, wasn't perfect. Still flighted very nicely. Yeah, so the spin just creeps up a little bit, slightly low in the face strike. Obviously going to drop about 4, 5, maybe 6 yards shorter on that shot. Going to expect to see that on that type of strike. That's gorgeous. Nice high flight yet again. And to be honest, that doesn't feel any different, doesn't sound any different, it doesn't feel off the club face any different to that blade. So potentially it's just really more of a visual in that playing position, just a slightly chunky top edge. But, you know, if you can get past that, which I'm not saying it's offending by any way, but, you know, it's just obviously a slightly different look than what I'm sort of used to. But I was sort of tempted to put something like this in the longer irons, just about a little bit of ease of use, and then when your scoring irons go into that sort of blade. Now, availability in the CB, we've got a 4-iron through to pitching wedge, but you've also, as custom, you've got a 2-iron option, a 3-iron option, and a gap wedge option. In the staff model blade, again, you've got a 4-iron through to pitching wedge, again custom. You've got a 2-iron in that blade. Yep, you heard me right. Good luck if you're going to use that one. A 2-iron, a 3-iron. There's no gap wedge. So this is where obviously again you can blend these. You can add in the longer irons if you're a real ball striker and iron player off that tee. Obviously you might be switching them into utility irons, potentially even that sort of hybrid in that area. But the options are there for you. So I say very, very blendable. Yeah, again, beautiful ball flight. So push comments down below, let me know your thoughts on Wilson as a brand. It's always an interesting one for me. As I say, the history of Wilson is phenomenal. Maybe sort of gets overlooked nowadays, you know, the presence on tour, maybe not quite as powerful, not quite as in your face as maybe the bigger brands like your TaylorMade, your Callaway, your Pink, etc. Price point wise, these tend to be just a little bit less from your typical big brands, and they've also got a very cool new custom fitting technology whereby there's a sensor that goes in the butt end of the club of the fitting iron, and it really gives you some great starting points in terms of what shaft length, your dynamic lie as well, which is quite a cool little feature in it as well. So in just literally 4 or 5 swings once you're warmed up, you can quickly get dialed into a very accurate area in terms of the shaft and the makeup of the golf club to then go and test it yourself. So great acceleration in that fitting process, really. Oh, beautiful one to finish up on. Okay, so there we go. Staff model. Refreshing, they're not switching these out every single year. Beautiful set of golf clubs. Don't let them go away from your radar when you come to try some Players Forged irons. Definitely include them. Give them a go. You'll be pleasantly surprised. Appreciate you watching the video as always. Hopefully I'll catch up with you all very soon.